Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing my new Ineos Grenadier. I'm going to show you guys the options that I got on my Grenadier, explain why I got those options, and then I'm going to talk about my initial ownership impressions so far. Before we get into this video though, as always, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get right into it. So powering the Grenadier is BMW's B58 inline 6. It goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, they claim that it puts out 282 horsepower and then 331 pound-feet of torque. It feels more powerful than that in the real world. And then fuel economy stated to be 14 miles per gallon. I've been getting almost 18. Now, before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now, the first thing that I added to the car is what I add to every single car is paint protection film. That's what has this like shiny finish that overwhelms the camera. I think it looks really good in person. Anyways, I got the checker plates. I just think they look cool. They obviously are functional, but I just got them for aesthetic purposes. Now, what I got that wasn't for aesthetic purposes was the winch. This is obviously something to help out with off-road recovery, but then also if I have to yank tree stumps and all that out of the ground, it's a nice thing to have on a vehicle. But yeah, outside of that, there's a front end. I think it looks super cool. It has that retro off-roader look. Now, this Grenadier happened to have the steel wheels, which was an option that I would have ordered on a vehicle anyways, so that was a nice thing for this to come with. And you can see the all-terrain tires. I will be upgrading these tires in the future. And then this is a Trialmaster, so that's why you've got the raised air intake, which makes cool noises, by the way. I did add the rock rail protection with this because, again, I plan on actually taking this off-road, so that's a nice bit of kit to have. And then you get the utility belt with the Trialmaster. Now, this one does have the power added to it. That's also a Trialmaster thing. I don't know if I'll ever use it, see if I get into overlanding more so. And then we did wrap the roof black. That's an option you can get from the factory. This one didn't come with it. Again, I didn't order this. This was someone else's order that they backed out of, but we wrapped it black because, I don't know, I think it looks cool. Now, another bit of kit this comes with is the storage here. I've showed this to a lot of people and everyone seems to love it because it's just this nice little practical thing added to the Grenadier. And then, as you can see, oh, by the way, ladder. So that's something. If we pop into the rear, pretty sure this is the storage for the Safari windows, if I remember right. I'll be taking it out because I don't think I'm ever going to take the Safari windows out. I just like having the extra light up front. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Got all the cargo tie downs with it. Something to mention is getting the extra cargo tie downs probably doesn't make sense because this is already so many. If you get extra, I think that there's like 8 on each side, so I don't even know where you'd put them. But that's kind of the rear area. Receiver hitch, that was a must for me because I do plan on towing with this in the future. So that's an option you have to get from the factory, so I had to pick one out on the lot that had that, but that's the back. Now, this leads me to the first option that I wouldn't have ordered on the car, but this one came with, and that's like the upgraded leather. So there's some there, and then the seats are leather seats. I'm completely okay with the mesh seats personally. I like this backseat area, by the way. There's tons of space. It looks like Doug left this in from when he was wrapping the car. They get vents here in the back, you got outlets and all of that. And so overall, it's just a nice place. The one thing I will say is this comes down pretty low. So like, I'm not super tall, but I still end up hitting my head sometimes on it when I get into the car. Now, I did forget to mention with the door panels, really tight fit and finish, like just a really well-built car in general. 1261 is the payload because of some of the options added, right? You lose weight when you add stuff. And then again, with the front seats, they are manually adjustable, which is something I actually really like, to be honest. And then you can see just with all the trim on the dash, tight fit and finish, soft touch all across. It's just a really, not necessarily like fancy material, but like high quality interior. Now, I will say this whole key and the ignition thing, still getting used to that. I haven't done that in a while. Now, this one came with the fancy brown leather steering wheel. I don't know if I would have optioned that out, but now that I've had it, I actually really like it. It feels a lot more high quality than the Napa leather steering wheel, which, don't get me wrong, that's a nice steering wheel. This just, I don't know, it feels like one of those fancy old wallets or boots or belts. I don't know, it's a nice steering wheel because it's real leather. But aside from that, always got to talk about the toot function. That's always a fun feature. Now, I will say, in a modern vehicle, this has one of the worst backup cameras in the car industry, but it's okay because visibility in the vehicle is good, and we'll talk about that with the driving, I guess. This is something that a lot of people complain about. I thought I was going to be annoyed with it, but living with this, it's really good. I actually like not having a gauge cluster because you get like perfect visibility over the hood, and this isn't a fast car, so like every so often I just check to make sure with the speed, but like you're not going to be breaking any speed records anytime soon. You can see I don't have a ton of miles on it yet. Only been driving it for a few days at this point, but 417 miles on the odometer. And then the rest of the infotainment system's really easy to use, quick response time. Again, it's basically a BMW unit is what it looks like. And I think the whole compass thing, pretty cool. Comes with the Trialmaster package. And then heated seats come with the leather. You can add them to the cloth seats if you want. And then you can see the BMW shifter. I thought this would annoy me, but I've just gotten used to it over time, so yeah. And then again with the nice leather trim there on the brake. And then that's just the analog control for the infotainment system. Now this four-wheel drive setup I think is really cool. So this is basically all-wheel drive in a way. So right now it says high, it's four-wheel high. I can move it to the side and that'll be four-wheel high with a center locker, which is basically true 4x4. And then I can do it into four-wheel low because again it's a grid pattern here, it's a square. But you can also have it in four-wheel low without the center locker. So I think it's a really cool system that they have here and it's easy to use. Grab handle, and unlike the modern Wrangler, like this is sturdy. It's a sturdy grab handle with it. And again, it's got more of that nice leather trim. Safari windows, I went back and forth on these, but if you tint them, it's so worth it. It just adds a little bit more light to the cabin, doesn't annoy you at all, and I know it's just cool. And then you've got all of the auxiliary items here. This one right here, this is for the winch to turn that whole thing on. It does have a remote controller that goes with it as well. If you're wanting to use the winch, you got to be in neutral with that on, and then with this brake up. So it's a whole setup there. Anyways, with the Trialmaster, you get the front and rear locking diffs. If you're not going to take it off-road, who cares? But if you are going to take this off-road, that's always a nice thing to have. And all of them come with the off-road mode and the waiting mode. But yeah, this whole setup up top is cool. Now here's a quick look at the window sticker. Now this is obviously a more loaded up one, so it's going to be a little bit pricier. A lot of them you'll see in the $80,000 range. But anyways, $92,920. If we took away the leather seats, that would save me like $2,000 on that. But still, it's a big chunk of change. But I will tell you guys why I personally think it's worth it. Obviously, I think it's worth it because I bought one, but let's drive it and something's up. So let's talk about that visibility situation. Because you're seated so high, you can perfectly see over the hood to the end, so that makes parking that way super easy. Mirrors, and by the way, off-road too, placing the car. And then throughout the back, it's not so great, and that's where the backup camera can be a little bit, I mean, there's got like big windows, but the tire and the ladder and everything get in the way a little bit. Setting off in my Ineos Grenadier. Again, I don't have a ton of miles on this yet, but trust me, those miles will very quickly add on, because I mean like the 418 miles, I mean that was just like 3 days I think of commuting, if that. So yeah, it just gives you an idea of just how many miles I drive, like 40,000 miles a year. So yeah, this will get lots of miles very quickly. But initial impressions, this car gets better the more that I drive it, which is weird. Again, there were some things that I was kind of on the fence about when I got this. Like, you know, the steering is something that I understand it, but you know, can be a little bit annoying from a commuting perspective because it's kind of wishy-washy all over the place. I'll tell you, you get used to it, and not only do you get used to it, but you end up liking it because it's just kind of like this more relaxed driving experience because of how light the steering is. Like, you just kind of take things a little bit slower. You're not so like on, because like steering that's really sharp, you're kind of like on edge and like just always kind of, I don't know, not correcting it like this, you're correcting, but it's like darty. This is slow and kind of lazy, and I don't know, I love it. I really like it. It's funny, I'll go review cars and then I get into this and I'm like, ah, this is how steering should be. So you get used to it. You get used to it. The ride quality, it's firm, but I mean, like on this, obviously smooth pavement, any vehicle is going to do well, and this is just like any other vehicle, but it's really nice to drive. And the wind noise with this, I thought would be bad. It's not bad. You do get more road noise. It's not as bad as a Wrangler, but it's kind of closer to Wrangler levels of kind of hearing other people's tires and everything, especially on the highway. But as a daily driver, I think it's more than insulated enough for what I am looking for. And speaking of daily driving, like I said, I've been getting like over 17 miles per gallon on average, so better than the 14 that the EPA suggests. And when it comes to acceleration, I mean, look at this thing. It's not like a sports car by any means, but it has more than enough power for this type of vehicle. Again, you hear the power figures and you think, oh, it's going to be slow like a Toyota 4Runner, right? Because it barely has more horsepower than a 4Runner, and it's way quicker. It is way, way quicker. This feels similar to like a Bronco with the 2.7 V6 in terms of acceleration, just to give you guys an idea. Like it's peppy. It's peppy. Seats are comfortable. All the manual stuff, again, you just set things once and then you're fine. Like the seats, the key in the ignition, I don't know, it's cool. Again, it adds to like the experience and the charm of the Grenadier. And that's what I want to like emphasize, is this is an experience to drive. Unlike a lot of modern cars that, I don't know, isolate you from everything, this, you can hear kind of like the transfer case working at times and you hear stuff around you. I don't know. It's an experience, and the Safari windows do help out with that as well. And so now we have to, I guess, answer the question of like, does this actually justify the big price tag? Again, it starts at like 70 grand, and you know, fully loaded, you can get into the $90,000 range. My personal take on the vehicle, after doing more research on it and living with it and doing a bunch of comparisons, I compared this to like everything this week, including the Mercedes G-Wagon. And what I discovered is the only vehicle that you can really compare to this in today's market is the G-Wagon. This is better built than the new Lexus GX550, the new Toyota Land Cruiser. It's better built than a Wrangler and a Bronco. It's better built than the Defender. And it has a much more exciting driving experience than any of those vehicles. The only vehicle that feels like as tough as this is the G-Wagon. And the G-Wagon's super expensive, and it's super soft now, right? They've got this super luxurious interior. You've got massaging seats. They went for independent front suspension. And so this kind of drives similar to the previous gen G-Wagon that Mercedes sold for 40 years and sold very well, because it's such a durable tank-like vehicle, looks cool. And so if you've wanted, basically, and this is what I've always wanted, a G-Wagon that isn't super luxurious, that it doesn't have all the frills and everything, but is still super capable, that's what this is. That's what this is. And so that's why it's just a better vehicle than anything else on the market. Is it as comfortable as like a new Lexus GX or a Defender? No. But I think with this type of vehicle, comfort is not the priority. Again, durability, ruggedness, all of that is the priority. And then again, the experience with this type of vehicle, that also adds into it. So let me guys think about the Grenadier. But again, the more time I get with this, the more I like it, and the more I'm like, you know what? Maybe we put the wife in one of these too, because it's such a cool car. And we'll see if it wears over time, like if stuff starts breaking, this and that. Again, it's too soon to tell. But from what I've seen with the test mules with this car, I would be shocked if it starts falling apart, because it seems like these things were, again, they were engineered to be able to take on hardcore off-roading. So that's all.